let's. John Shipley does not have these issues. He's a young man, and he's got his whole broad life way out in front of him. And he joins us here from Jaguar Report, an offshoot of Sports Illustrated on the Jaguars beat. You know him well. Ship, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, my friend. How you doing?
We're doing quite well. And just to ask you, a lot of things we can jump into here, but give us your thoughts when you heard that the Jags were acquiring Brandon McManus and that Riley Patterson would be on his way out. And, I know it was just a brief glimpse, but what did you see from McManus yesterday?
Yeah, no, I thought, obviously, when you make a kick like, Riley Patterson did last year against the Chargers, it can be argued one of the biggest, if not the biggest kicks in franchise history. Of course, a lot of people, within the fan base are, going to maybe get a little attached. But I thought just from a pure football move, it was an upgrade. I think McManus, he has the experience. He has, the leg strength. People look at his numbers compared to Patterson's last year, and obviously Patterson was much more efficient in terms of field goal percentage, but Patterson also never really attempted long field goals. McManus attempted, double-digit 50-plus yard field goals, a couple of 60-yarders, had some kicks blocked. So I think when you just, look at the evidence, McManus is a kicker with a bigger leg. He's made plenty of long kicks outside of Mile High Stadium. To me, I think it kind of changes the Jaguars, really their scoring capability and potential. And normally there aren't moves in late May that can really make that happen, that can really, turn the needle, even if it's just a little bit like a kicker. But I thought it was an improvement for them, and I think it gives them, between kicker and punter, I think they have, two of, I'd say, McManus, in my opinion, is probably a top 10 guy at the position, and then Cook, in my opinion, is the top 5 guy at the punter position. I think they're, really, at least for the short term, set at the kicker and punter positions. And then, what we saw from McManus yesterday, I mean, he drilled a couple of long kicks, a couple of 50-plus yarders, and then there was one kick. It would have been good from, 62, 63. So Heath Farwell said before practice that he thought he had elite leg strength, and Heath Farwell, wasn't exactly diplomatic when asked, why they made the move. He said Patterson's range just isn't the same as McManus, and you could see that yesterday.
John, you've had an opportunity to see the rookies at the minicamp. The OTAs have been open for a couple days, including yesterday here in the last week or so. Does anything feel different at OTAs in year 2 compared to year 1 under Doug Peterson last year?
Oh, 100%. I think last year they were still early in that feeling out process. Doug Peterson putting in his system, his culture, obviously getting to know the players getting to know him. He's mentioned it before, but he had to win their trust over after the Urban Meyer debacle. And, guys who were there that year, guys who came in as free agents, there's just a lot of guys who still had to, win the trust of. So last year, you could feel all that newness. This year, to me, it's a much more confident team. It's a team that, moves around, in my opinion, with a lot more swagger around them. You can just feel it in the air, to me, that this is a team that's been battle-tested, that they're coming into the year with expectations, and that the feeling out process is over, and that they're looking forward to taking, an even bigger leap, in my opinion, than they did last year, just simply on the comfort level alone.
So it looked good yesterday, Ship. I know we're not, I'm not asking you to give specifics and break down, the formations and all that, but just in a general way, who caught your eye?
Yeah, no, I think obviously everybody's going to expect Trevor Lawrence to look good in these kind of practices, but I thought he had several deep attempts where, in my opinion, he really put out some nice footballs. His dialogue with the receivers has been great. To me, you can see him really take command of the offense after last year. At this time, it was really just his raw tools on display because he was getting to learn the offense. Now, to me, you can see him in complete command of it. I thought Travis Etienne looked good. I think his hands throughout, this early portion of the offseason have been, really impressive. He caught everything that I've seen thrown his way. Zay Jones impressed. Daniel Thomas was somebody who made some plays, was around the football a lot. And then also Tyson Campbell, he's a guy who you really aren't seeing anything thrown his way. And maybe, they're obviously trying to install some things. That's for a reason. But it was like that last offseason, too, and last year's training camp. And it kind of set up the great sophomore season he had. So he's somebody who's really stood out defensively.
What have been your impressions of Anton Harrison from the rookie minicamp through the second open OTA practice yesterday?
Yeah, I'll actually have a story on him today. I talked to him after practice yesterday. He is, when you really see him in person, you really get an appreciation for the athlete he is, the size that he has. I mean, just talking to him yesterday, I'm not a small guy. He absolutely towers over me. He looks the part of an offensive tackle. He looks smooth throughout practice. Whether they're in the pass sets or running sets, it looks to me like he has all of the traits that you would want in a right tackle. I thought, and it's been reported, I believe it was by Jeremy Fowler after the draft, that the Jaguars staff, thought he had a lot of similarities to Juwan Taylor. I think when you watch him at practice, I think the same thing. They move very similarly. They're similar type of athletes. They're big guys who are good on their feet. So he's obviously pads aren't on yet, but he's somebody who stood out to me, at least among the rookies.
Among the rookies, Tank Bigsby working with, Travis Etienne in that backfield, and of course, Dearness Johnson and JaMychal Hasty. It's a deep group right there. You said Etienne is looking good. How big of a workload are you expecting out of Etienne this year? Do they like him where he was last year? Do they think, in your opinion, that he could be more effective even with fewer touches? Like, what are the roles you expect for some of these guys in the backfield, I guess?
I still expect Etienne to have a similar role that he had last year. To me, the scenario where his role changes is maybe when they get in those goal line or short yardage situations. He was just from a numbers perspective inefficient from the goal line last year. I think I saw a stat that said only 26% of his goal line rushes went for scores, which was among starting running backs towards the lower end. You can also wonder, though, how much of that had to do with the offensive line's run blocking. But I think if you're going to see anywhere for somebody to maybe get some carries, like a guy like Tank or maybe even, JaMychal just go some, I think the goal line is probably where. But I think Etienne, he's such a different athlete than everybody else they have in the position that I don't think you can keep him off the field too long. We saw it last year. The offense can be in a lull, and he can be the spark that really wakes it up just in one play. So maybe not as many touches as he had last year, even though he didn't really get force-fed the ball very much. But I don't think it'd be a big decrease in terms of overall role.
It's all voluntary right now, so no one has to be here. But do you make anything of the Josh Allen absence from OTAs going into week 2 now?
No, I don't. I think OTAs, especially with veteran guys, you get to this point, it's exactly like you said. It's voluntary. Maybe some guys, like to do their own workouts, anything like that. To me, any storylines when it comes to voluntary workouts for any teams, unless like a player's explicitly, stating from their own mouth that they're holding out or anything like that. To me, any absence during a voluntary workout isn't a huge deal. And Josh Allen is somebody who he's always working. He's not somebody who, when he shows up, that he's not going to be ready to go. He's going to be more than ready.
All right, so Ship, right now, if you look at this team, I think Tony and I were talking about this earlier. The window's right here, right, to make something happen this year. We're talking about, where the Arizona Cardinals stood a season and a half ago. They're undefeated, 7-0, and now you look at them, and they're the wreck of the National Football League. I don't think that's going to happen to the Jaguars as long as Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson are taking in oxygen. But what are the pitfalls that you want to see, other than pass rush, which is an obvious one? What are the areas concerned that you'd like to see get ironed out over the course of the summer?
I think just seeing overall how their depth in the secondary kind of grows. I think right now, they roll out their starting secondary. It's one that you can really trust. But if, any injury happens, especially at cornerback, there are a lot of question marks. So I think just seeing those guys maybe take a step. And then, to me, the offensive line, obviously, they have multiple guys returning. But yesterday you also saw, big guys working off to the side during team drills who come back from injuries. And those are Cam Robinson, Ben Birch, and Josh Wells, who, two potential starters and a key, swing guy. So there are some big questions just in terms of overall health for that line that I think still have to be ironed out.
So Robinson, though, doing some individual drills yesterday. Did you put eyeballs on him? How was he moving?
Yeah, no, he was moving good. He's wearing a sleeve on on his right leg, but overall, he was moving good. And I had said that on Twitter. It's just him being around Anton Harrison is good for Anton Harrison, and a few people thought maybe that was over exaggerated, but yeah, it's the truth. Cam Robinson is somebody who last year, I had heard during training camp that he was a big help for Walker Little. Specifically helping, like showing him some finer points of playing offensive tackle while he was making the switch over to right tackle. Just helping him mix up some things. So I think Cam Robinson's presence just for the younger guys is a plus whenever he's there.
The Chiefs and Bills have been among the teams rumored to have some level of interest in DeAndre Hopkins after he's being released by Arizona. How much interest should the Jaguars have in signing DeAndre Hopkins, in your opinion?
To me, I'm normally all in on thinking any team should take any advantage they can possibly get, add any potential top tier talent you can get. But I think the Jaguars already, there's not enough footballs to go around in the offense. Everybody, they have to get involved. They already have significant money spent at the wide receiver position. I think Hopkins, he'd be a great fit for Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, signing him would mean that the Bills and Chiefs, two guys that they're hoping to compete with at the end of the year, aren't able to sign him. But just from a football perspective, they already, it seems like when you watch them at OTAs, have already, in my opinion, almost an embarrassment of riches at the skill position. Almost too many guys to get the ball to when you factor in, other guys, Evan Ingram, Jamal Agnew, etc. So to me, as much as I normally am all for, bold moves like that, I'd say they're probably better off not to.
All right, so it's the final day of May. Jags still have until the 17th of July to get a deal done with Evan Ingram. How do you feel today as to where that will end up?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's still a little bit of time to go. I think the Jaguars, their complete intention is still to get a contract worked out just because financially it helps them at least, in the shorter term, and knowing at that position they have some answers to have Ingram signed. But I also don't think that it's going to be a situation where, the tight end market actually really helps either side. The tight ends did not go for big contracts this season. So if you're a player like Ingram, who's obviously looking for a big deal after a career year, it might not be the best thing timing-wise.
We asked the question yesterday about Pro Bowl players for the Jags this year, John, and I think most people agree Trevor Lawrence is probably the most likely, but outside of Trevor Lawrence and Jamal Agnew, who has already been a Pro Bowl returner for the Jags, who is the next most likely to make a Pro Bowl for the Jags this year?
Yeah, I think obviously Tyson Campbell is somebody who is right up there. Trevor Lawrence. Calvin Ridley, in my opinion, is I just think that he's going to see enough explosive play opportunities that, in my opinion, it'd be a surprise if he doesn't put up the numbers that are potentially indicative of that kind of season. And then Foye Oluokun, after the season he had last year, I think more people will be paying attention to him and his role this year. And he's somebody who you can just expect to be productive. So I think he's going to have a good shot as well.
Oh, yeah, I think Foye's got the best shot because he's been around for a while, done it in a couple of stops, led the league in tackles the last 2 years. Man, look at those wide receivers that made the Pro Bowl last year in the AFC alone, Ship. It is tough, man, to break through with some of the guys, with the Tyreek Hills and the Jamar Chases and others in the conference. But, hey, I hope you're right. I hope Ridley puts up those kind of numbers this year. All right, Ship, any last things we're not getting to that you felt were worth mentioning coming out of yesterday's OTA practice?
Everybody's healthy. I mean, I think that's, a big thing. Just they're, at this point, other than a few, offensive linemen we talked about that still have to work their way back. I mean, this is a team that they're in good shape, in my opinion, heading into training camp. Things are looking to me like, that they're taking the step forward on offense. And, obviously without giving everything, away, just some of the stuff, we saw yesterday just in terms of the talent that they now have on the offense compared to Trevor's rookie year. It's just staggering to see the 180 that they've really done at the skill position.
All right, John Shipley, knock on wood, they stay that way as right now things are feeling pretty good around TIAA Bank Field. _John _Shipley @_John here we go. Let's try that again. @_John _Shipley is where he's at on Twitter. You got too many underscores for him.
I know. That's on me. That's on me.
Well, it's for me. I'm the one who's supposed to be able to speak words properly, John, but doesn't always turn out to be the case. Anyway, listen, man, we always appreciate you. I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Have a good rest of your week, all right?
I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, buddy. John Shipley with Jaguar Report, part of the Sports Illustrated family on the Jaguars beat.